Okay. Okay, that may have fixed it. Awesome. Okay. Yay. Let the good times roll. Sweet. We might be able to do something, even though the video is kind of screwed up. Let's see if I can fix the video. I mean, the video is not that bad. It's just... I guess that's it. Is that all I need? I think so. I think that's all I need. Let's see. I was talking with Brian just a few minutes ago, and then he disappeared. I don't know where he's at. I was also talking to Gordzilla. He may have, maybe, gone back to that other video thingy. Let's see, let's do that. And I'll close that. Alright, well, I guess this is what we got for now. Let's see if I can find it. Dog Sons or Sun Dogs, whatever. Alright, we are going to share screen. Minimize that. Whoops. That's not what I wanted to do. I am sad. Stop. Okay. Let's see if I can get the video going. There we go. Hey, Gord. Hold on, we're gonna play that again. Awesome. Can you guys hear me over the video pretty well? If you can, that'll make this all the better. This is just insanely awesome. Here we go. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at some pretty great videos to start off until we get someone, until someone decides they want to come in here. Oh, you don't hear the video at all? Okay. Hate is a relative term. You get that right. Let's see if I can get the desktop audio to work. At least something to where I can turn it off whenever I want to. Okay, that didn't work. This kind of thing is just insane. Look at all those different different lightings. It's so good. Okay, hold on. I'll see if I can send it again. Brian has left the call. He was here? Oh, man. Chat? No. Jeez, it should work. We're gonna have Brian on here pretty soon. Him and I ought to be able to get a good conversation going on. Talk about all sorts of crazy stuff. Sundog in Moscow. Oh, wow. That's some original content. Wow, that is so cool. I always find these things so interesting. I try talking about this stuff with my brother. One of the things that he said is we got to talking about gravity. I'm like, I don't believe in gravity. I believe there's, buoyancy and density and magnetism magnetism that works into these things that make it so we stay the way we are. And then he says, "What holds us to the ground?" I'm like, the fact that we're heavier than the air, and the fact that the ground is denser than us is what keeps us on the ground. I don't think there's any other laws that have to explain what keeps us on the ground. Gravity is a nonsensical thing that's just put in there, and it has to make sense for people to believe that we're on a planet. I'll say this over and over again until my face turns blue, until I become a Smurf. 2 suns and a sunset. Space cowboy. 2010, 2 suns. So there's sun number 1. Sun number 1 has clouds going behind it, which is pretty interesting. You can see the clouds right in front of it, and then there's clouds behind it. So where's this second sun he's talking about? 5 minutes later, I was expecting it to come out around here. So that the sun set already? Is that what he was showing? So I guess it's a misleading title. And picture thing. Thumbnail. Like usual. I don't know. I might get copywritten for this. Very first video gets copywritten for showing videos that are someone else's content. Oh well, I'm a risk taker. Man, how long does it take Brian to reload his computer? Let's see here. Here. Oops. That's not what I want. Where is it? I had it. It's right here. There we go. That one. Okay. There. That's what I wanted. So, I am going to see if there's any sort of development with, Illinois. Illinois is currently having some serious problems. Okay, 11 hours ago. Now they're wondering what they do with their taxes. Perfect. Yes. Everybody's very curious on why they are failing. They were going to increase the income tax. Wow. And then they're going to delay it. They're going to we're going to do it today. But they're going to increase the income tax. Let's see how much they were going to do it by. $5 billion income tax increase. It's necessary to create a balanced state budget. You know what? If they really want to balance their checkbook, maybe they should be a bit more strict on their welfare programs. Because so far that is failing them pretty hard. Okay. Let's see. I want to see how much of a debt they've accrued. What the heck are these people? Alright, that must have been something else. The state has accumulated nearly 15 billion in unpaid bills, and state comptroller will not be able to meet its core priorities, including schools, by August. Oh my. Well, this is really no surprise, if anyone was wondering. Okay, let's see. Godzilla, trillions of dollars in debt, and they say it's necessary. Love to see the math behind that. 98% of the world's countries are in debt. In the World Bank, give it a wipe with a clean slate and start again. Well, here's the thing. When we have the central banks, and we have the federal bank in America, where it's privately owned by the Rockefellers, and Rockefellers. This is the very basics, but the Rockefellers tax every dollar. So every dollar that's made, we have to pay them back with $1.50. The problem is we can't use old necessities in order to fix that sort of a problem. So they've schemed many different ways of taking money out of us. The thing is that they can call in the debt anytime they want, and I think right now they're calling it in. They're calling in these debts that the states, they're going to do it state by state. They're not going to do the entire country, because if they did the entire country, people would go like, "Oh no, This is a big problem. Let's fix it. No. They got to make it look like it's a state problem rather than a national problem. If they doing it by a state problem, makes it seem like it's just the senators of each of those states have poorly managed them rather than the nation has been poorly managed. So I believe right now, David Rockefeller and no, David Rothschild. David Rothschild is calling in the debts, and he's doing it state by state to get to slowly start collapsing. One of the things that has been said is that New York or New Jersey could be next because they too have high debts that are not being paid. Funny thing about these is that they are also these are highly democratic places. I'm actually really surprised that Michigan is not one of the places that have um, that hasn't been destroyed yet. Seeing as though, uh, seeing as how Detroit's been going, like Detroit is completely fleshed out over 50 or 40 to 50 years maybe of Democratic um, governors just destroying the place. Like, oh, we gotta focus on these guys, but you don't have anything. We gotta increase the debt. We gotta no, not increase the debt. Jesus, but that's essentially what they're thinking, I guess. But we gotta increase our taxes. You guys aren't paying enough, and it just gets worse and worse. It's just it's insanity. I don't know what they're thinking. Literally though, the Rockefeller's owned by the Rothschilds. Yeah, well, I guess they ought to be the same thing, but I confuse the names because they start with you know the R's. but it's pretty crazy to see that the Democrats are literally the enemy. They put themselves out there as like as the Nazi regime. Not saying that they are Nazis. Their beliefs are probably different in a way, but um, they're like politically in America, like seen as um negatively as if they were a Nazi regime. It's crazy to see how over the years, there used to be a legit Republican and Democrat party, and they voted on two separate issues that at times, one was necessary for the other, and the other was necessary, and it slowly turned into into okay, only one party is really good, but it's not even that good anymore. It's not even useful. Right now, we're just picking the lesser of two evils, and right now the least evil is the Republican Party. We um I really wish that Donald Trump didn't go for the Republican, but went for the third party Libertarian. It would have been great. Started a third party. People said that if Donald Trump went for Libertarian, he would have been more. Um, he would have been taken more seriously rather than seen as he's not really serious. He can't be. I was gonna go for him. I was totally gonna go for him, but after what I've seen now, he's not doing all too good, but he's doing a heck of a lot better than the other thing. Oh yeah, nationalism is actually pretty essential. Um, what I think people don't understand, they've really taken Nazi and nationalism and communism pretty much all as the same. But when it comes, but with nationalism, you you have a lot more care for the things that are around you. Like in America, if we had our nationalism, we would care much more for the things that we do to ourselves, and inevitably we would start to care about our relationships with other nations much more. But because we're doing this whole globalism thing, it's now a popularity contest. It's just like school. In school, people don't care who you are as long as they're the best, as long as they think they're the best and the brightest, and they meet up with all these requirements that that are popular. But since we don't have nationalism, which brings things down to a focus on you problem, it's now a focus on everybody else and make sure that they're with your political views. um, yeah, Japan is pretty awesome. It's just that I feel pretty sad about how America went and decided to bomb them. 6 months after the war was over. It's pretty bad. That's one of the worst things possible. I wonder where Brian is. The poor guy, he left. But I think this is the start. Illinois is the start. Them going bankrupt. This is gonna be the final straws. First is gonna be it's gonna be every single uh it's gonna start off with all the Democrat nations because they are doing it by themselves. They want they've been doing that. They don't know how to budget anything. They just know how to cater to their feelings. But what's going to happen is that I think places that are doing sort of bad because they work heavily on like tourism, environmentalism, and such. Probably Louisiana, Mississippi, maybe one of those red states are going to have theirs called in, their debt called in to be paid for. Google won't let me go live or even get in there. Oh. But they might call in the red states for their debts to be paid, just so Democrats don't feel all so bad, and then everybody's gonna start freaking out. and they'll there's going to be some made up riots. Like, we have the ones that are paid by George Soros already. The lefts. They're going to start doing the same thing, except they're going to be worse. They're going to I definitely see some Muslim groups going around going like, "Ooh, we know how to budget. we, we could do this, let's go out and help out around. Um but then after but then once those guys start going around, we're going to see also the other side of just flat out anarchists who go like, "Yeah, down with the government," but then they're going to start looting and hoarding, saying, "This is for the good. This is the only way to live," and they'll start killing people legitimately because they're terrified. This is the whole trouble. Um, Ever since I uploaded the free energy stuff, I didn't delete all of it. Now most fellows are doing true stuff. Have a lot of trouble. Yeah, that's true, Brian. My trouble wasn't. Let's see. Derp, derp, derp. But we're gonna see a lot of people going crazy with anarchy crap, and then after they start paying people to kill things, along with actual people with mental disorders now because they weren't brought up correctly. Um, then we're gonna see some martial law. People are gonna be like, "Oh no, we need help," because it has to start where there's the most gun control, and there's no guns in Chicago. Once people actually run out of money and they get fleshed out, because they won't be able to buy anything, they won't be able to get stuff for themselves. The only people that will be able to get things for themselves are the people who have guns, and that are already all the gang members, all the Muslims that because they believe they have the right to arm just like because well one the Constitution says so. They're going to be supportive of that. They won't have any issues with it, but also because already in their Muslim countries, Islamic countries, um, they're absolutely free to have those already. So these sorts of things should are this is what I think is happen. Um, and it's completely plausible because we already see much of that activity already happening. I've seen a lot of different kind of videos that have talked about where Christianity is going to be the face of everything. They're going to be targeted with every single problem, with every even if they have um even if they have just a basic issue. like it was funny because before people even like when gay marriage was accepted and elected to be legal, which is really strange because in the early 2000s and even further than that, I think even way back in the 70s, people were still getting married. Homosexuals were already getting married. They're like, yeah, we're gonna do it whether the law says so or not. And guess what? They did. They weren't brought to the nut house. And people were just like, okay, fine. Just old school saying, don't bring your gay to my kid. But they were doing it. And for some reason, now that it's law, so that makes a difference. But after as soon as gay marriage became a thing, and immediately one remote church in Kansas became the biggest news for like a year. Going like, God hates gays and crap. It's like this is a you know this is what you would call a real hate group because first off, it's misinformation. God never says he hates gays. He never says he hates a person. He does say he hates sin, and we've said that throughout the entire motion. But um, after it was legalized, that was still a thing. That was still even talked about. And then people started on about, oh, we should accept the refugees, and now we're telling them, hey, this is part of their religion. They literally hang them. They hang gays. Us Christians are trying to save them, and now it's all like, oh, you're Islamic phobic and you hate Islamics. I was like, no, we hate their teachings. We absolutely hate their teachings. But what we completely disagree on is that is something that we disagree on. But when it comes to homosexuality, those that take it the most, radically, I'm not gonna say it's all of them, obviously not, which is stupid to say in the first place. But since we have sensitive-minded people, I'm gonna say it anyways. But those who take it radically, they hang them, they kill them, and they do far worse things. They actually get creative with it, which is awful. But you know, Christianity is still going to be the face. It's still going to be a targeted enemy by made by and provided by the government. Uh, and that's what it wants to do. And they said that before they start introducing Satanism as or Luciferianism, I don't even know the difference between the two. Um, one says the word that doesn't uh, say the true name of the real evil, and the other one is the actual name. So he whose name shall not be said. Anyways, uh, but as soon as but before they do that, they're actually going to take down atheism and Christianity at the same time with one fell swoop of something. Um, I think that's gonna be they're gonna have a belief of they're gonna see a divine. No, not divine. I don't even think it'd be divine. They're gonna see some sort of power. I think they they might see a certain power that goes beyond their comprehension. Whether science calls it a different dimensional, which dimensional just means some other fabric of existence that is beyond ours, which is obvious. There is, but whether it's that, um, well, once he shows up, we're gonna see some sort of power that just shows, okay, what us Christians have always said is true, and it always has been true. But they're gonna play it in a way of, well, they're gonna do it all topsy turvy. They're gonna be like, it's Lucifer, it's Satan that has created this world, and here's the truth about the world. And that's when I think they're gonna also reveal that the Earth is actually, flat and it's stationary and all this. But they're gonna play it as if it was Satan that did all this for us and protected us in some way, or just something. Um, and then they're gonna be like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense because they're not gonna have any. They're not gonna have any other foundation. There's gonna be no other foundation for these people to actually to stand firm on. If they try and stand firm with atheism, they're gonna be chopped at the knees. They're not gonna have anything to be able to fight back with it because they're gonna have to completely deny all reality. We already have some people that already deny reality, but when you put back in a power, a real power that hits people, you know, whether it be a divine one or whether it be a satanic one, that wakes you up. That wakes you up in a way you probably never felt before. And and as soon as that happens, you just can't deny what's going on. You see the powers at work, persuading people to this whole new rhetoric of what they're seeing is this thing, and they've never gone to this before, but they're going to be drawn. And since it's never been something that they've experienced or seen or have had any knowledge, or some people may not even remember or have recollections of God as they were kids because they've denied it for such a long time or something like that. It's gonna make it far easier for them to be able to go, okay, this guy this guy is super strong, he's stronger than me, I'll go with it. And that might be the turning point. And then it's going to be the whole, they're going to keep playing the whole "we love you" card. um they're going to be like, in the name of love, that whole thing that took over Russia. I am the man that orders the block that fall down from up above, all in the name of peace and love. Yeah, yeah. They do it. They do it for the people who have lost their minds all over Tumblr. But now, man, really, this just makes people weaker and weaker, not just physically, but spiritually. They're gonna be knocked out. They're just going to be taken and swept away so fast. It's gonna be like they never had a spine to begin with. And that's what the good Lord is for. The good Lord prepares you, and He gives you all the strength you need to stand up against all other powers put on this world, or other powers that have been in this world, to say, no, you cannot do this, and yes, we will go forward with the truth, and yes, God is going to lead me and carry me away. For He is the light, the truth, the way, and my God. It's just That's just that's how you have to go at about things. Because as fast as atheism's got here, it's going to leave twice as fast. Because they're finding things that are beyond comprehension, and they don't have anything that is capable of fortifying it as truth, as the way it is meant to be. They they don't have much, and they're doing everything they can with it, but they're losing it just as fast. And all the truth they say it is, they can't. They're not able to hang on to. Let's see here. Um, yeah, things are just going crazy these days. If you live in Canada, I feel so bad. Canada is literally the world leading one world government. They really are. It's awful to even say that, but they are. It's insane to think about how Canada has enacted all the laws they have, and people have no, like, as far as I've seen, which isn't much because I know Canada is crazy, but just sort of like America. America's cutting out all sorts of information and happenings that are going over all over the world. But with Canada, I don't even know what's going on. Are people rioting, fighting for their rights and freedoms that they once had? Who knows? I really hope so. Because if they're not, and if they're just legit too afraid, that really shows something. That means we have to fight. We're gonna have to. America's gonna have to take over and liberate Canada. Maybe. I don't know if we'll be able to do that and revert them to the way they were, but I don't know. I just don't. It would be nice. It would be nice to think we'd be able to do that without people actually dying. Hmm. Let's see here. Let's get some. Let's get into some flat Earth stuff. You know, we really don't have what I'm interested in seeing. Okay, First Chronicles 16:30. He has fixed the earth firm, immovable. That makes a lot of sense. Psalm 93:1. Thou hast fixed the earth unmovable and firm. Psalm 96:10. He has fixed the earth firm, immovable. Psalm 104:5. Thou didst fix the earth on its foundation so that it never can be shaken. Isaiah 45:18. He has made the earth and fashioned it, and himself fixed it fast. So I am curious though as to, does it explain if the earth, disregarding the dome, it is essential the essential flatness of the earth's surface is required by verses like Daniel 4:10 to 11, and Daniel the king saw a tree of great height at the center of the earth, reaching with its top to the sky and visible to the earth's farthest bounds. The earth's furthest bounds. Um, yeah, and then they start talking about where Jesus was tempted and such. Deuteronomy 4:15 to 19 recognize the godlike status of stars. Nothing that they were created for other peoples to worship. But I'm still curious, how did people get the idea of a dome though? Could it be a dome? Could it be square shape? I don't know. As far as we can see from the dog suns or sun dogs, whatever the heck they're supposed to be called, sun dogs. Yep, they're called sun dogs. Okay, so the sun dogs give us a great idea of that it could be a circle. Not a circle. A dome. Yeah, half circle. There we go. That works. Like a contact lens. But let us see. Well, sure thing. Yep. Here's what I'll do. Alright. Let's see if I can set this up. Let's see. That's not. What are we gonna find here? For some reason the audio won't play through the video, which I don't know why, but we'll find this. We'll figure. We'll find something that's just a visual. Trying to see if I can get the lousy sound to work through the video. Alright, so what this guy just said is that this Google application, I think it is Google Maps, shows the elevation of two different points, and where he's traveling from. And he just put in two different places. One's really far up. Let's see here. Yeah, one's like all the way up there, to the very bottom, almost the very bottom. There's like a little island in that spot, but all the way to the very bottom, and that is about 600 miles. In fact, right here, oops, that's a little bit blurry. 601 miles. 601 miles. That is a lot. And it showed an elevation, as he just said, just an elevation difference of 10 feet. Just 10 feet. He said Weymouth and Aberdeen. Weymouth is the one all the way at the bottom. He said there should be 11-mile difference. That's crazy. There should be a pretty drastic difference. Like, even if it is, you could still somewhat argue, it could be on a ball. But even if it is on a ball, there should be a very good difference. A very good one between the two. Not just 10 feet. 10 feet is nothing. Heck, back in those days, you could argue. Now he's doing San Francisco. I forget. San Francisco to... I think it went to Connecticut or... Yeah, it looks like Connecticut or Rhode Island. Right off of Connecticut into New York. Yeah, that's a pretty far tip point there. Four feet. 4 different feet. That's it. That's like giving someone like if you're just yeah. If you're giving a toddler, no, not even a toddler. I guess it's a 10-year-old. If you're giving a 10-year-old the piggyback ride, that's the difference between the two. 3,350 feet. That's crazy. That is very crazy. You'd honestly bet your bottom dollar that that the Earth is still a ball. Oh man, am I able to go back to the original screen or what? Well, now it's being ridiculous. That's just insane. It's crazy to even think. I mean, why? Why would it even still be a question of of like, oh, how could you believe the Earth is flat? Something as simple as that. Believe it or not, my brother disagrees with this so much that he literally thinks it's a dangerous talk. He disagrees with religion as much, just as much. He's like he believes religion is a dangerous talk as well. These are the very same people who think freedom of speech is hate speech. There's another guy. There's who took a odometer, I believe, or accelerometer. I don't know the difference between the two. I think the accelerometer uses just the up and down, latitude and longitude. Odometer. Let's see. Does the odometer one supposedly use the gravitation? No. I'm not even close. that's a car. Okay, it is the accelerometer. Okay. The accelerometer uses three different things. It uses pitch, tilt, and yaw, right? Yeah, I believe so. Just like a plane. But there's a guy that went from one place in the world to another place in the world to see if it would stay the same, or if you had to adjust it from place to place. Now, the idea or the maths behind it is that if it's a flat plane, if it's a flat plane, you would not have to change your accelerometer from place to place. What you would, because it's all the same, all flat, all in the different areas, all the same. Um, but if it's on a ball, you would have to change it to where it is localized. Think. I think that's the idea. Hey, welcome back, guys. Um, okay, let me see here. To me, it says it's live. That's strange. Let's see, can I get this thing to work now? Huh. What the? Cancel that. What the heck is... Why is this happening to me? Okay. There. That's what I wanted, I guess. Let's add. No. Jeez. Huh. Hello. You made it? Oh. Oh, that must have been the old one. Like I ended the other stream and I started a brand new hangout. Yeah. All right. Awesome. It's nice that you're here. I hope so. No too much. Um, I'm actually changing it. Yeah, I'm changing it to the thing I've been trying to use for a while. Just our hangouts. I looked up accelerometer. There was a guy that did a little test. Um, I'm not sure what his outcome was because I watched it a fairly long while ago. Um, but he was using an accelerometer, and he flew from one place. I think he started in America and it went all the way to England to see, or something, as far. I'm not sure what the two places exactly were. Um, to see if he had to change or recalibrate the accelerometer from one place to the next. Uh, yeah, yeah. I wasn't sure if the outcome. I think he didn't have to, and the reason for that was because being on a flat Earth, you don't have to recalibrate for the different curvature that you would be at. But being on a flat, yeah, being on a flat Earth, you don't, because it's all the same level. Like the up and down are still the same. Yeah, yeah. I actually have a question for you. You know that kid we talked to over on Brian's um oh you talked to he had the Jupiter picture, and I forget what the name of the other guy was, but he went on a pretty big I wouldn't call it a tangent, but he went on a rant for a long time about Sandy Hook, 9/11, and all this other stuff, because he clearly didn't quite get, where we were at with our sort of research onto how it all ended up the way it is now. Um, but you talked about a certain event where the the shadow of the moon would be opposite. It would start from the bottom and goes to the top. Um, or was it top to the bottom? Yeah, I think it was top to the bottom, but it was going at a sunset. And that wouldn't work on a spherical model, but I forget what that particular event would be. Uh, the best. Oh, oh no. Okay, near base. Okay, okay, all right. Try now. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Um. Yep. Okay, so I think it's just recording my mic, but I want it to record the desktop. If I set that to default, is that gonna do anything? Or what? I don't know what's up right now. That's probably the reason why you guys couldn't hear the video. Great. Hmm. Maybe if I do that, it might do something for me. Let's see. Let's do YouTube sound test. Or I could just hold up. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. Settings. Change the testing. That works. Let's see. There's an audio input. I'll probably just make it reset YouTube. Do I need to add an output? Audio output? No, I don't think so. Yeah, I can hear you. No, I don't think they can. But it's strange.
I don't know. No, he says no in the chat.
Ah, I got you now.
Do ya?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see what the chat says.
I don't care
What
what
does
the
the
chat.
chat say?
I don't care. I don't care. I got it correct. I got it right. It's right here. I know what they're gonna say. Boom. This is how we do it. All right, I'm gonna save this before.
Yeah, write it down. When you get settings that work, write them down. I had to mess with mine. The colors were off. There was a place where you could switch red and blue.
Yeah, I got two.
Oh, is he saying he can hear me now?
Yes. There. Beautiful.
Awesome.
I'm
Write
a
that down.
smart person now. Sweet. I got this all set up the way I like it.
Okay.
All right.
So where were we?
That Jupiter guy. Did you call it like the Panarum or the Penundrum or what the heck was that event called?
Penumbra?
Penumbra. Jeez, I typed it in all over Google and they couldn't even figure out what I was saying.
Penumbra is just the shadow. It's the the kind of the between the main part of the shadow and the almost shadow or something like that.
Penumbra shadow. At sunset.
And Brian types near base again.
What do you mean near base? What are you talking about?
Yeah, Brian, what the heck are you talking about?
You're all over the place. Oh, okay.
What does that mean?
Near base.
I don't know
I
what
think he's.
anything
I
means.
think he says close enough.
Okay.
But yeah, I tried explaining. I had these ridiculous chats with my brother. He gets into the whole I already talked to you a little bit about this yesterday, but he gets into the psychological everything about why flat earthers think the way they do, and getting into conspiracy theories makes us feel very important and gives us a rush like cocaine or something. um,
Okay.
yeah, that's that's a lot of absurdity given that he doesn't even have a psychological degree in anything, and the fact that the psychiatrists we have today are doing more damage than they are doing fixing the minds of people.
Oh yeah. No doubt about that.
Yeah, but I tried
Yeah,
explaining to him a little bit
how does
about this.
anybody know? I'm sorry.
I tried explaining to my brother a little bit about this. I'm like, there's a video of this penumbra, and it shows a shadow going from the top to the bottom at a sunset.
Okay.
And we couldn't really figure it out because he likes to Google things himself. And then I also started talking to him about how the moon rolls, like it goes from from one. It literally rolls when you see it up in the sky.
Right.
Um,
Right. Turning like a clock instead of.
yeah,
Yeah. I know what you mean.
but he doesn't believe that either. And then we
Well,
got.
doesn't
Go ahead.
well doesn't NASA's own footage show stuff like that, or don't they show any time lapse of the moon?
I've got no idea. I don't think there's a popular request for that.
Hmm.
They won't. They won't
What would he
show it
say if he
unless we.
showed that? Yeah.
I would love to learn how to do this sort of thing myself, because I do have a camera, but I don't know how to make it so like it's feeding into a server. Well, not a server, but onto my computer and putting all the crap onto my computer while it's recording, which would be pretty awesome. I'll probably look it up, but in Maine there is absolutely no way to do that. We get like probably a good 2 weeks of clear sky out of the month, and probably only 5 days is with the moon out. Because I keep my eye out there. I look, and it's very hard to get any pictures of the moon unless I were to go to a mountain. We do have a couple of hills and mountains around, but they're nowhere near me. And that's a pain.
Okay.
That's a pain in the butt. But then we got to talking about all sorts of other stuff. Well, actually, it was mostly him talking because I will not talk to him or interrupt him. I'll let him go on forever. And he's that kind of person. He'll just keep talking and talking and talking, and I'm just like, all right, I won't bother with an input. Not because I think he's being rude or anything like that, or I'm just like, I know eventually he'll shut up. If I were to
Okay.
add anything, he'll go on another rant about that. But if I just keep quiet, he will run out of fuel at some point on this little thing that we're talking about, and we'll be done with it in about 2 hours. Um, but we got to gravity, and I'm like, gravity doesn't exist. It's really stupid that it exists, and I believe that these three things, magnetism, density, and buoyancy, is all we need to explain, why the ground is the ground. And, we're heavier than air, and the ground is denser than us, and that's why we stand on the ground. And he's like,
Right.
then what holds us down? I'm like, that's the only thing that holds us down. And he's like, no, something has to hold us down. And I'm like, yeah, we're heavier than the air. And he and that's sort of where it stopped. uh, the only excuse he had was that there was this magical thing called gravity that was keeping us to this ball. But if you were to think, that those were the only three things that we needed, which are proven and absolutely factual because it's always there, and then you toss out gravity, there's actually no need for it. But he couldn't get past that because as soon as you know that there's no need for gravity, then there's no ball Earth. Because that's their key. That's their little key to their journey of space and stuff. Is that gravity's law?
Right. Yeah, the thing is that even with with density and buoyancy, there's a reason it goes in one direction. Why it is that things go from that different density levels. Things don't always go from least to most because some things, the least will go up through other densities to get to its equilibrium point or whatever you want to call it. But there's still no explanation either in any model of to why it has a direction. And the thing about gravity or gravitons or anything they want to try to make up is they can describe the downward force, the force towards the center of mass, but they can't explain it. And nobody really can. No model can really explain. I mean, we can say electromagnetism, and I believe that to be true, but we don't know why things are electromagnetic. That just seems to be the stuff the universe is made of, and which is design. I mean, design, it works the way it does because it was planned to. And when it gets down to the essence of the very basics of things like electromagnetism, we really can't explain it. Nobody can.
Yeah.
And calling it gravity means you have to be able to put something under a microscope, any kind of mass, and say this is the thing that attracts it to other mass, to the center of mass. Nobody can explain why that happens because there's nothing you can put under a microscope and go, see, this is why. We just know that it is. But at least with electromagnetism, you can say, look, I can put iron filings around something, around a magnet, and see lines of force, and we can feel that force. But with gravity, all you know is stuff goes down. That's pretty much all you've got.
Yeah.
So I don't, if I talk to anybody, I don't say gravity doesn't exist. I just say nobody, unless it's electromagnetic, nobody can really say what gravity is. They just can describe it and calculate its force, but other than that, they don't know. And as far as the ball model goes, the thing is that the spin or motion of the Earth has absolutely zero to do with gravity because gravity only concerns mass and distance. There's no other thing in there for force or motion, I mean. And so if the Earth wasn't spinning, the gravity wouldn't change at all. So gravity isn't what's holding things from spinning off. That's not why things don't spin off because if the Earth wasn't spinning, theoretically, if it stopped all of a sudden, we would go flying off at a tangent. Just like if you stopped a car suddenly, you would go through the windshield.
Yeah.
Because you have momentum independent of the car, and we would have momentum independent of the Earth if it stopped spinning. And so we should all fly off forward, whatever, when the direction the Earth was spinning, it suddenly stopped. we would go flying off in that direction. And that's has nothing to do with gravity. That's just angular momentum. That's not gravity. The two different forces.
Yeah, what doesn't make
So
ultimate sense to me is if the Earth is spinning, how um you do have to have something called gravity in order to keep us together, because even if you were just to have um buoyancy and all those other things as an actual factor for how things are, it wouldn't be able to counteract the 1,000 miles an hour speed of us spinning around. And
right.
apparently, gravity nullifies any act of centrifugal force. Because
Yeah, but it can't.
as we understand it, centrifugal force pushes us outward. It's supposed to
Yeah.
make the things that we are um, it's supposed to make these things go away from each other, but as they somehow explain it, gravity says no, no, that doesn't work. We're going to attract other objects, and somehow
Yeah,
over
that's
years and years we're going to get a bigger planet with bigger meteors, and stars are going to not have any gravity whatsoever, because density is a thingy that makes gravity stronger and such. That's
yeah. It's all. Yeah, go ahead.
those things don't add up. Um, and not only that, you know, oh, I found a video a while ago where a guy found a book, way back in like 1912, and he wrote very elegantly, because they had a good form of English, where he
Hmm.
said that science is no longer based on what you can see, what you can do, and what can be repeated. It is now going to be based on equations. And this is a danger to the scientific community, turning us into I forget, I forget what the other sort of science there is. The fake science, pseudoscience, turning us into pseudoscientists, where we where yeah, it's based on the mathematics rather than what we
Right.
rather than what we can prove, and that leads into the great amounts of theoretical sciences that we have. They're like, oh, we have all this stuff. It's really funny because we have all the scientific evidences for bumblebees existing, but we cannot prove why they can fly.
Right.
We can see it. We can see that they fly. We know that they fly. But if you were to go to, like, you know to play with their imagination, if you were to go to a different planet and go like, here's a picture of the bumblebee. Here's everything that we know about it. Oh, and it can fly. And they're like, but these mathematics don't add up. They cannot fly. That's not even a theory
Right.
that these bumblebees should not fly. It's like, well, they can. They're like, okay, if I see one fly, then then we'll agree with you, but we got to figure this out. It's like, oh, sorry, but we killed them all. It's like you never have the proof for any of these things. You have to see it before it even becomes a theory. You have to see it. You gotta know it, and you gotta
Right.
have it all inside and out. But we can't even see half. Not even half. We can even see like 1/20th of a thousand of all this stuff that they're saying, and they're like, oh, but these are theories, so they're pretty darn close to facts, and eventually they'll become law because we'll have so much theories to back up the theory that it ought to be law anyways. Um,
Right.
but it just hurts my brain because he's not even interested in, like, I'm not exactly the best person to talk to about these sort of things because I can tell you all the truth that I know. I just can't really explain them all too well.
Okay.
I'm good at preaching to the choir because, you know, people like you and me, we can share all sorts of ideas and we won't get into a massive confrontation of, oh, how is that supposed to work? We already know how it works. I just can't get it all out of my mouth.
Right.
um, but anytime I try and talk to anyone else about it, they're like, "No, that's not right." I'm like, "No, what you think is not right." And here's some other things, and they just can't get their heads around it. And I'm not a good introducer of ideas. I'm like the big brick wall that has spray painting that says these are my ideas.
Right. I don't know. I typed you a message there. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if these are going to show publicly because we're sharing the screen.
No, I shortened
Uh,
it a little bit so the chat.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
So they won't see that pop out. Okay.
I'll add you as
All
one
right.
of the. I just don't know how to do it.
Okay. And Brian, yeah, you got to go to the chat and hover, and you'll get the three dots. You click on the three dots and you say make moderator. I can't do that.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, you got me, and maybe you can do
and
Brian.
yeah, sweet. I am now officially a channel. Haha. Sweet. Everything's working so well. All right.
Yeah, the hard part is figuring it out.
Oh, trust me. As a kid, I would actually never figure it out, but I would break things. Like I'd get the same downloads and links and stuff as other people, and they'd be like, "Okay, this one works. Just follow the instructions that I give you, and I'll do it exactly the same." But then I try and do the thing that I was trying to do when I was getting in the first place, and then it would not work.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, just
I've had plenty of that
it's just
experience. Yeah.
it's just crazy stuff.
But yeah, as far as gravity goes or anything like that, like I said, their own formula only has mass and distance and it doesn't have motion. And so if if you like if you do that experiment they do in physics class where you put a weight on a string and you twirl it around your head,
Yeah,
it's the string that's keeping that thing going in a circular pattern. As soon as you let go of the string, that the object will go off at a tangent from the circle in a straight line. And so if the Earth stopped spinning, then things would fly off because gravity doesn't care about motion. And the same reason that the object you were swinging over your head will fly off and not be held in place by gravity is because gravity has nothing to do with its motion. We'd still fly off. We might come back down eventually because gravity might overcome our momentum as we lose speed as we go along, because if you throw an object it loses speed, and that's why it starts to bend down toward the earth, is that uh, it doesn't have enough velocity to overcome gravitational force. But um, if it's spinning, yes, you would fly off at a tangent,
yeah,
and gravity wouldn't save you from doing that because, like I said, gravity has nothing to do with that. Keeping you on, it would keep you on if you weren't spinning. I think that's the point where people misunderstand. They think that the gravity is necessary to keep you glued to the earth because it's spinning. Well, you would still be glued to the earth if it wasn't spinning once you got over the initial stop, the change of acceleration. you would still be stuck to the Earth even if it wasn't spinning. Spin has nothing to do with gravity. It's not necessary to make gravity to have something spinning because it isn't the spinning that makes it, it's the mass.
That's what they say.
And it's confusing because it's meant to be.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, I think it's confusing because they. Oh yeah, you're right. Because it has to be.
Yeah, because it has to be. We've all heard that clip. It's CGI because it has to be, or Photoshop because it has to be, I think is what he said.
And the reason it has to be is because they're working it off of equations. I mean, and equations can easily get confusing. um, and with
Right.
with gravity, what's really funny about it is that it doesn't. If you were to, it's sort of like the accelerometer. If you go from one place to the next, you should have to recalibrate it to their gravity point because apparently there's different parts of the Earth that have more gravity than others, by like a fraction of one, whatever it should be. However, what really doesn't make any sense is that there is um, electro. There are parts, you've seen the videos over in India where you have a park in neutral and it's going up a hill.
Okay.
That's anti-gravity. Why is there parts of this earth that are anti-gravity where a person can be leaning at a good 35-degree angle, standing up but going forward, and he should be falling, but he's able to stay steady without using any strength in his legs or in his body, and it's just pushing him back. These sorts of things just don't add up. Um,
I'd have to look into that because I know some of the stuff can be optical illusions. You'd have to have a bubble level next to it to see if it's really level or not. You know, whether something's going against supposed gravity.
yeah. Oh, what was I gonna say? I had something really good.
I don't know about differences in gravity. I don't. That doesn't make any sense by their own theory because supposedly the gravity of the Earth is its total mass, not mass at a particular spot.
Oh yeah, there
That would
are.
make gravity very vastly different, like at the top of a mountain, than it is in a valley.
Did you ever see the geographical Earth where all the water's gone and then there are different points of
Yeah.
yeah. So they use that as a very good example. Like at the same time when they came out with that, that's when they also started to talk about. There's even points in Canada where it has the least amount of gravity in the entire world.
But that doesn't. I would have to see what they're basing that on because,
Yeah,
like I said, it's supposedly the total mass.
it's
Yeah.
weird. It's weird. But part of the reason that they have to make it all confusing and stuff is because it darn it. I had something good, then I went off on something else. Oh well, I think that's just as good.
Yeah. I mean, they make it complicated because they keep realizing that their simplistic theory doesn't hold up, and so they have to add layers of complexity.
Oh yes, what was I?
Which is like,
What I was gonna add on to that was different. Just like the different parts of the Earth have different supposed gravity problems, they have to use different equations for those different areas. Not one equation works on every part of the Earth.
which
It,
means it's not a scientific theory because it can't be repeated.
exactly.
I'm Yeah, you can't have different theories of gravity for every different spot. I mean, you could have a different, depending if the mass is different, you would get a different force. I can see that, but not needing a different formula.
Oh yeah,
That's
there
what I don't understand.
there's hundreds of formulas for gravity on how you can find it. There's not one. Like for even for some like I'm trying to come up with some sort of example, but I think there is a law that requires a maximum of 2 or 3 different equations to because of
Okay.
certain effects that we see. But when you go past like 100 different equations for a particular thing, I think it's about time you stop. The same
Yeah.
thing goes for carbon dating. Carbon dating, there are
Right.
like 86 different ways of carbon dating the same object.
Yeah.
And that makes no sense. Like it's literally one, like you take a bone, same spot, same whatever, but you use a different carbon dating thing to get its date or whatever, which is absurd. Um
It is.
and it's not even using it on different bones given whatever sort of effects that were on it. It's all the
Yeah,
same
that's
bullcrap.
just. Well, yeah, it's just like whenever we find something that, like they used to say, is the coelacanth was millions of years old, and then they found a living one and said, "Oh, a living fossil." It should have falsified their theory right then and there. And so what that means is it's not falsifiable, and if it's not falsifiable, then it's not scientific by their own definition. Because they keep, as soon as they find something that doesn't fit, they just make up an ad hoc explanation, which is a fallacy, and keep it going. There's nothing they can think of that would disprove their theory. Just like with even past the coelacanth, we have viable blood cells in dinosaur bones. Well, that shouldn't be possible either. And then instead of admitting that this proves that dinosaurs didn't live millions of years ago, they say, "Oh, well, I guess we were wrong about how long a blood cell can survive."
Oh,
That's just
oh,
not falsifiable.
that oh, they really said that,
Yeah,
but
because the researcher who studied this stuff didn't want to find the results she found. She said it can't be blood cells, it can't be this, can't be that, and finally she had to admit, it's like, hey, I tested this every which way. I was very careful. Here's my tests. Here's my results, my methods, and I'm sorry, but this is a bazillion years old dinosaur bone with living, viable blood cells in it, and they shouldn't be there, but they are. That's all I can tell you. And then she got really criticized by other colleagues because they're like, no, you're not supposed to find that. And, oh, okay, I guess we're wrong about how long blood cells can survive.
no,
That's all they could come up with.
but that's bullcrap.
Yes, it is.
We know how long blood cells can survive because
Yeah, I
blood.
mean, that's a
We
pretty
all
basic
have them.
thing, and you can't make up a new rule. Yeah, I mean, you can't just suddenly change how long they can survive because you found some that don't fit your theory on how old they are.
Yeah, but a big problem with that is humans. We've been research, like investigators and policemen. They've all done decomposing body examples. Like I think they called it I don't know. I think you know what I'm talking about. But they have like their own little graveyard that they use for decomposing bodies, and then they study how long and what effects have
Right,
happened and such. You can't change that. We've observed this.
right.
We know how long they can
But
survive.
they did change it.
And now they're all like, oh, looks like they survive longer than we thought.
Yeah,
No, 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 no. We know how long they survive. We've been doing those studies on ourselves for freaking, I don't know, a very long time.
Yeah. Well, see, things must have been different a long time ago. There you go.
And not only that, we have records of very old people who have died hundreds of years ago. And we've dug them up and studied their bones. So we definitely know what hundreds of
Mm,
years of blood cells and stuff and how long they can go into the bones of people.
right.
We can have a very,
Yeah.
very
So they did.
accurate representation of what a dinosaur would be. I doubt.
Right. I mean, there's plenty of similar animals. Yeah. It is what it is. It's common life stuff, and they can't just change the rules, but they do it. You know, because otherwise it's too horrible to contemplate. They cannot make themselves believe that this stuff was designed, which is, hypocritical, because it's like I say, they can look at that space station up there and go, yeah, we designed that. That's obvious design and intelligent design. But they look at the people who made it and say, no, that's an accident.
I, they're not even believing that anymore. They're starting to believe the alien seeding theory.
Yeah, which isn't even an answer to the question. It just moves the goalpost to a place where nobody can investigate.
It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's absolutely
they think,
funny.
well, we came from someplace else. Life obviously didn't begin here, so it began someplace else by somebody else who already, just planted the seeds. The seeds existed, and we don't care where those came from. We just know it was evolution.
Yeah, you know
we
the
believe it by
guy.
faith.
Yeah, you know the guy that did the eye commercials, and he has this very monotone voice. Um,
Uh,
it was for like a red eye. He would use these beach balls, and they would have like a red eye. It'd be a
for like Visine or something.
I don't know, whichever one it was
I'm not
supposed to
sure
be.
what you're talking about.
But
Okay.
there was this actor guy who talked with a scientist, and he's like, what about intelligent creation? Is there a possibility of that happening? And they're like, well, there is first he denied it, and then he said there's a possibility that other aliens who had evolved throughout the ages came and made us. I just I can't get over it. I have to laugh at it because I'm like, you're just coining off one intelligent design for a different intelligent design and proving me right. I'm just all for like the original creator rather than a created creator.
Right. Yeah, they can't just keep pushing the goalposts farther away. That doesn't answer anything at all. That just means they have to admit that their explanation for how things arose here doesn't work.
I don't I don't understand how people can take that seriously. It, it's like they're being a
Yeah,
god for God.
they are. Time and chance are the gods of the gaps for atheists. All you need is time and chance, magic wands, and anything can happen. It even looks like design, even though it wasn't. Which is funny, again, when you think about SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. How are they going to recognize a design signal, an intelligent signal, if they can't even recognize it, that the people listening are designed and intelligent? It's a double standard. SETI is a very good case study in hypocrisy, because how do they expect to tell what design looks like? They can't tell. They can't even recognize it when it's right here in front of them.
Mm-hmm. It, yeah, just it drives me crazy at the
It's
same
funny.
time, but
Yeah.
uh,
It's just denial on a massive scale.
you know, they ought to don't know. I can't understand how you can get into that sort of a thought.
Yeah, you have to wonder. Of course, people can deny a lot of things. They just don't want certain things to be true.
Yeah.
It's just like with 9/11, for example. People don't want to believe that our own government would do that, you know? But it's been going on for generations that governments will betray their own people,
Oh yeah.
but
I
they
mean,
don't want to believe it.
I didn't I didn't entirely believe it until someone told me, this isn't a new thing. I'm like, "Oh." Then they told me,
Right,
Rome has done this, China has done this. They all do it for their
right.
own political assets. This isn't a new thing. And I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. If that people who have their own interests would do something that bad, it
Yeah.
doesn't make it very surprising anymore.
No, and the hard thing is to get people to realize that it's happened in the past. Like they even admit, the government, as far as that goes, admits that the Gulf of Tonkin incident that got us into Vietnam was a total fabrication, and they
Pe-
had pretty much admit that. But
yeah,
it's too late now. Everybody believes it, and nobody cares.
people have actually gone even further than that, and I think it's because of the dumbing down of intellect. You know, although the food and spraying in the skies and such, um, they even deny. They would be like, "No, our government wouldn't do this. It's our government. Our government's the best." But
Mm-hmm.
even saying, I do still think America is the best place to live on the entire world because in comparison, the rest of the world is crap. That's that's just how it is so far.
Yeah.
Um, but holy crap, we're not perfect. We've gotten a lot worse. But the entire world has gotten a lot worse. So it's sort of going to
Oh
stay that
yeah.
way.
Uh,
It's just going to stay that way until the end.
people say, "Oh, you should get out now. It's a police state. You should go to this other country or that other country and get out while you can." But I'm like, you know what? When things are going to get that bad, I'd rather be with people I know than with an entirely different culture and everything,
Yeah,
because it's going to be a lot harder to deal with then.
yeah.
Because they're not going to care about foreigners.
Well, you would have to get your resources back up all over again.
Yeah,
Like
and it
I
and the
would
thing is,
say,
there won't be any place to run.
yeah. I would have to say though, right now you best stock up. Get your MDRs, whatever they're supposed to be called, the food, those food things that will last you
MREs.
forever. MREs, yeah. Um, Start stocking up on those. Build your own underground bunker, whatever. Because, Illinois, me seeing Illinois go bankrupt, and as I said before, the Federal Reserve can call in their debts anytime, and I think that's what's happening, and that's why they're $15 billion in debt. That's sort of, I think that'll be the average of about how many
Well, I
people
think
owe
it'll take
or
some
whatever.
time.
But
Yeah, because I think what they're. Oh, goes. Sorry. Go ahead.
with my thought with this is that first, they're gonna start calling in first the natural um, occurrences are gonna happen, and they're gonna be in the democratic states because of just how the Democrats work. They're literally like the second the number one evil in America right now. Not
Mm-hmm.
because they're not the Democrats they used to be. They used to be the legit Democrats, doing um, having a different ideal and of importance, because the Republicans would have their ideals and then the Democrats would have theirs, and either one would work in depending on the situation of the nation. But the Democrats are literally not working. They're not doing anything. They're just ruining. They're ruining places. Detroit has had a Democrat um, governor and a Democrat mayor for over 30, 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're completely shelled out. No one can live there. Um,
Right.
and I think that's just happening at a massive scale now, with the rest of the Democrat states that have been like that for a very long time. They don't care about debt. They don't care about money. All they care about is if they're giving their people all sorts of neato stuff while the rest of their infrastructure
Yeah.
completely collapses. So I think Illinois is an excellent place to start because number one, they want to usher in um, all sorts of chaos and fear. They realize that global warming isn't working, so they're gonna have to do things on a more realistic level. uh,
Right.
the reason Illinois is the perfect spot is because of Chicago. Chicago has the most restrictive gun laws in the entire nation, and not only that, they're number one in homicide and all and ridiculous on everything else. So the only people that are ever going to survive there when their economy finally collapses entirely is the people who have guns. Those are the
Mm-hmm.
gang members. Those are the people who are of Islamic faith because they don't follow our laws other than the ones that they like, which is the right to bear arms, and they have that already in their Islamic nations, so they're not going to have a hard time following that. And then whoever is going to get paid to have organized crime. So just like the
Right.
George Soros, who already set up um, all sorts of protesters and stuff as soon as Trump
Right.
got elected. And with those,
Yeah.
people are going to be like, no, we want our country back. And then they're going to usher in martial law. That's what we've seen the whole setup for like massive police tanks. Like,
Right. Well, we saw the way the government slipped in and took over General Motors, for example. We call them government motors now.
uh,
That's totally against the Constitution. But they did it, and this is the what now they're turning. They've got the companies. Now they're turning to the states, and one by one they're going to pick off each state, so that the states will no longer be able to claim sovereignty because that's what under our original Constitution has. Each state is a sovereign state.
yeah,
That's why they were called states. They were really nations in themselves, and they could make their own laws. And there were just a few basic things like national defense and interstate commerce was the only thing the government was supposed to do. The federals, and they're going to use, I think, Illinois as a case study, or not a study, but a showcase of exactly what they're going to do for the rest of the states. One by one, they're going to make them all go bankrupt because they can, like you said, they can pull the plug anytime they want because they have their federal monopoly money in circulation. I call them game tokens because that's what they are. They're the tokens you need to play the game. And they're not real money, and they have no worth in themselves. And so who knows what state will be next, but
they said
we know they hate Texas.
yeah, they said
Huh?
New York and New Jersey could be next because they're on the verge.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm surprised the first one wasn't California. The
No,
way
no,
they
no.
run
They're never ever like. Here's the thing, because money is literally useless. It's just paper. You get the value of
things.
paper in your hands. um,
Right,
they can come up with whatever sort of bankruptcy they ever want. Like
right,
not just legally, because the Federal Reserve controls everything about how much our money is worth. Um,
right.
but they can also ignore it. Like in California, they could keep on printing as much money as they want to make that place as valuable as they need it. And because California is used as a idol, for the way things should be or whatever, they're going to keep that up. They're going to have everything
Mm,
else fall, and then they're going to be like, ooh, even the great California fell after everything else is gone. um,
right.
and that's just so they can bring in, the North American Republic. I think that's what they're going to be calling it. With Canada, Mexico.
or North American Union. Yeah,
Well, they're not
yeah,
going to
North
call it.
American
They're not going to
Union.
call it a union. They're gonna try and keep the
All right.
European Union. Because America is so Republican, and we're like, hell no, we ain't no union. We ain't no socialists, not yet. So they're gonna try and keep it republic as much as possible, to hold those ideals at least. So we have something to hang on to.
Yeah, boiled frog analogy and all that.
Yeah, and but the thing with that is, as soon as these things start going down one by one, they're gonna have the eyes on Chicago and on Illinois, and then they're gonna come out with more lies about it. They're gonna be saying all sorts of stuff like, "Oh, because their gun control laws didn't work, we're gonna have to be more strict on them," and it's because they were going out of state to buy their guns, and they went back home and started shooting people up. Um,
Yeah.
all sorts of ridiculousness that they may come up with to get other people to hand over their guns for the namesake of government protection. Um, I don't think people are all too stupid enough for that right now, but eventually, I mean, they have black chemtrails now, with
Yeah.
coal, to one, block out the sun a heck of a lot more. Two, I it wouldn't be too hard for me to believe people would start developing black lungs in the next 30, 40 years.
Right.
Um, but they would have to dumb down the nation a lot more. That's what I'm saying. They
That's
would have
pretty
to
bad already.
they would have to make us really friggin' stupid just to go, okay. Or they would have to go to Colombia, mass produce that drug, and then make it so that we don't have any inhibition to say no.
Right. I mean, they can do whatever they want whenever they want, but for whatever reason, they have to wait and do things gradually. And like I said, whatever they're doing with Illinois, they're going to do with all the states and eventually have control. And at first, I wouldn't be surprised if things got better for a little bit, because that's how they roll. They'll say, see, it's much better when the federal government controls everything and you no longer have these state silliness, and whatever. And all the laws are the same wherever you go. And isn't it wonderful?
Oh,
That's what they'll sell it as.
yeah, they're gonna say the most stupid things like they did with trying to promote socialism. Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Oh, Denmark and Sweden are the most happy countries in the world.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not. they're they're literally
Right.
miserable. Like there's a reporter. I believe she was from America. No, she was from
Yep.
she was from
Or
Great
Britain
Britain.
or someplace
Yeah,
like.
she was from Great Britain. She went over to Sweden, and she said these women are terrified to speak out against feminism and Islam. If they go out in public, and they hardly ever do,
Yeah.
they are absolutely terrified to even talk about it. They keep their heads down and they hope they don't get raped.
Yeah. And you
It's
can't even talk about it because, yeah, you could be hauled off to jail.
Well, you wouldn't be hauled off to jail, but you would get harassed. Like the feminists are like the NSA here. They can legally look up your number, look up your email, look up everything else about you, get a hold of you, send a social worker to your house, take your kid away, and then say you're an unfit
Right.
parent because you're not breeding the propaganda information to your own children, and say you were just abusive. Uh, it's god awful.
Well, but
That's just for
well,
saying something about it.
well, even in Canada, I mean, they made a law that you can't say certain things, or you will, you can be arrested
Oh yeah,
for
Canada.
speaking like, yeah,
Canada's the worst, absolute worst. And they said that they were the leading New World Order people to usher it in, like, and they were proud
yeah.
of that. They just put it out there. We are the guiding star. Oh, it's ridiculous. And you know what? I
Well, they
think
can own it.
yeah. But I think I used to watch like American Dad and Family Guy and everything back in the day, but I really think that there was an episode of American Dad where Stan, who was the father, he works for the FBI, and he no, he might work for the yeah, he works for the CIA, and he agreed to go. He agreed with them to become a cyborg experiment when he dies. So like his consciences, everything will be put over into the cyborg, and then the cyborg comes back from the future because I don't know, because they get time travel technology or something. I forget what the real reason was. And he had this weird accent, and it was a mixture of Canadian and Mexican. And he's like, what the heck happened in the future? And he said, well, Canada and Mexico took over America, and I have no doubt that that will possibly happen. Given that we've already
Well,
given our
that's been
guns
the
over,
plan.
yeah, we've already given our guns and everything, you know, military stuff to ISIS. Why not give it to Mexico and
Well, yeah,
Canada?
yeah. I mean that's been the plan. They want their North American, whatever you call it, with the Maros or whatever currency, and divide the world up into regions or governorships or whatever you want to call them, kingdoms even, and they are taking their little steps, and they can go a little faster now because they've got everybody so conditioned to accept this kind of thing. I mean, 50, 60 years ago, you wouldn't have got away with half of it. But they did get away with a lot of other things. They had to have taken steps even then. But it's in accordance with how much of the culture will tolerate at a given time. And with each step, they can make them tolerate a little bit more.
Yep.
And that's why we're to the point where we don't mind the TSA at the airports. That to me is like, wow, how can anybody put up with that? And then that stupid Obamacare, which was a disaster, that isn't constitutional in any way, shape, or form. It is a tax. You still get penalized for not having it.
I've never been.
You're being forced to buy a product. This is all terrible.
They've never found
Huh?
me. I haven't had to pay a dime.
Yeah, that's the thing is we pay, when you have a job, then they take out taxes, and then you get reported, your income gets reported to the IRS anyway.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not gonna pay it though. I've
but
never, I've never paid it.
yeah, well, shh. Anyway, enough about that. But that's the thing, is they're going to do what they're going to do. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Yep.
I'm gonna have to save up and get a gun. Gonna have to buy one of my own.
Well,
Because
yeah.
when I like Maine has been was a Democratic state for a good 30 years or so. Um, and then we became a Republican state since like 2008, and it's been working out pretty well. We saved $1 billion, and then somehow that billion, oh, oh yeah, I was explaining this. We saved $1 billion into our treasury. I and he says, and I spoke to my stepdad about it. I'm like, didn't they? Because recently we were told that we were running out of money as well, and apparently when we save money into the treasury, that means it's the federal money. It's not the state money.
Hmm.
So we didn't save anything, which is
Yeah, that's its own cook in the book. It's just accounting stuff they pull.
that's absurd.
It is. It's all garbage they feed the masses.
I thought it was a pretty good thing, and then I learned.
Yeah, it always turns out that way, doesn't it? Seemed like such a good thing. It's always a bait and switch. They'll tell you any story, they'll give you a few crumbs, and once you're committed and you can't do anything about it, then they spring the trap.
Tell me about it, man.
Just like they did with the Fed. They waited till Christmas break for Congress, and they ran through their Freemason or whoever you want to call them people to run through the legislation, and the people woke up Christmas morning or when went back after Christmas break and said, "Oh gosh, we've been robbed." Only
Oh,
they didn't say it; they didn't realize it.
wow. Okay.
I mean, the whole country was robbed at that moment.
Like, seriously?
Exactly. I mean, the Federal Reserve Act. First of all, the Federal Reserve is not federal, not a reserve. It's just international bankers, private bankers that was fought by, I think it was Andrew Jackson that fought them off successfully for a long time, and then
Oh yeah,
they
he
got
shot him down good.
yeah, and then they got oh, who was it? Who was president when in 1903? I can't remember his name, but I mean I could see his picture, but I can't think of his name. Anyway, signed it into law, and what it basically did was take away the United States federal government right to make its own money and hand it all over to the Fed. In other words, we handed them all our money so the Fed could print it. And the money went from being gold or silver certificates, debt notes.
Did you?
And so all of our wealth was transferred then.
Yeah. Did you say 1903
And
or
so
1803?
19,
Oh.
or 1913, sorry.
Oh, 13. Okay.
Yeah. But 1913, they I think it was Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow.
And what they did was, like I said, we were all robbed because we had no more real money anymore. We had pieces of paper that meant nothing on it. And so it's everything we pay in income tax. This was created. The IRS didn't exist before the Federal Reserve Act. They are the strong arm, the muscle for the Fed, and they collect income tax because the only thing income tax does is service the debt that we pay on the money that was taken from us. That the Fed keeps printing more and more of their monopoly money with, and we pay that. Income tax goes for is to pay the interest on that debt.
Yeah.
And the reason there will never be a reduction in the federal debt is because they can't. It would destroy the system. It has to grow all the time. The debt has to grow. It's what fiat currency is. It's by fiat means by decree. Just voted or decreed into existence. There's nothing real about it, and they don't have to. They cannot have a reduction in the national debt. It can't happen. It'll never happen. When people say that we owe people money, we don't owe anyone a dime. The Fed owes us trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars because of all these generations that they've had our money. They robbed us and they owe us with interest, and we're each should be trillionaires.
Pretty much.
But they tell us that we have to tighten our belts. Yeah, it's a scam. It's a giant mafia scam. That's the game. Rigged from top to bottom. It's my understanding that our birth certificates, our number is traded on the stock market like a commodity.
Yep.
And is itself worth millions? Yeah.
I forget when. I think that was even done before the Federal Reserve. We ran out of money after the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that it was paid back was by the people.
Well, yeah, that's another thing too that was predated it a little bit. Was that's how the international bankers work. bankrupt you. They'll offer you something. They'll create a war. They'll profit off the war, and then you become their debt slaves. And they send people to do what has to be done to influence the governments to do exactly what their bidding is, just like the Rothschilds always did. And how they basically stole England.
Yep.
And they just keep doing that.
I think it's really
Nobody ever
interesting.
figures it out.
Yeah, they're using man's laws, which are easily corruptible and such. So
Mm.
that just makes all the sense. But they're using man's laws and making their own, which is still man's laws. And how it's being paid these days is the government, is literally taking kids and children, sacrificing them, using them for whatever disgusting desires that they have, and to them it's completely justified. Um,
Yeah.
because they set it all in place. They're like, okay, we'll do all of this, make it all work, and
Yeah.
that's the supposed debt trade that we're making here.
Well, there's a whole lot of conspiracy down that road, but the problem is that people don't realize that we're up against multi-generational evil that they think they're just going to march to Washington and solve. You can't do that now. It's the whole world, all the governments at once, and they've worked very hard for many generations to put all their people in place at the smallest levels. I mean, they go down to the local, little towns. There's always a Masonic lodge. There's always a Catholic church. There's always something, and they have their people everywhere that matters. You know, and so at any time, they're not going to let anything grow from the grassroots. They've got it locked down.
Yeah, I guarantee that they know when the economy collapses that people are going to go and try and take take the White House, take the Federal
Yeah.
Reserve, take all these places, but they're not going to be able to. Like it's all been early since the Cold War, since that whole fiasco. They started building a literal fortress within the White House, making sure that
Right.
the president doesn't get all vaporized because he's apparently the most important person. The White House isn't the people's
Well,
house; it's
that's
the
what they say.
president's.
Yeah, who knows what's really? I mean, the people that run the shadow government we never see, or they're working some like janitor job or something like that no one suspects. And we're probably given hints of that sort of thing in all those movies. The Mr. Bad Guy ruler is behind some dark screen and is never seen in person, and nobody sees his face.
Yep.
And the people that we see are not the people running the world unless they're, like I say, hiding in plain sight. And we're never going to catch them. I mean, this is like I always tell people, I said, this is a spiritual battle, and you're not going to defeat it by your own strength, but that doesn't mean we just sit down and do nothing. It means we do everything we can, understanding that the war is not going to be won by us.
Yeah.
But we still have battles to fight. That's one of the reasons we're here. Whatever. So.
Do you believe that God gives people visions? They tell them through dreams.
Yeah.
Certain things. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some weird Christians that don't believe in that. Even though it's written down in like the Bible, that God had given David a dream. No. Well, they gave Mary a dream, told her to.
Right.
No. It wasn't Mary. It was her Joseph, right? The father.
Well, she had of an angel. He had a dream.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, told to follow the North Star and such so that is where it was used. But like last night, I had a dream about my aunt and my cousin, and they were we were in like the basement of their house, I guess. Um, and my cousin had a demon on him, and my aunt had two demons on her. And I prayed them away one by one. The last one I had to pray 3 times to get rid of, but I hadn't had a dream like that. Like I used to have dreams sort of like that, and they would happen, probably 2 or 3 times a year or so. But for the past like year and a half, I had not had a dream like that in a very long time. Which is interesting, it would either just be like, the demon's there and I have to pray it away or something. And I think that's just the practice of the spiritual battle, or it could be an actual one. I'm not sure. All I know is that they're gone now. um,
Well, that's good.
I mean, they could be gone spiritually in a different way. I could probably go up to them and possibly be given a realization by God that they're still around or something. If that's just a warning, or it could be something else. I'm not sure. Um, but the the weird thing is that after those dreams, when I wake up, my entire body is like vibrating. I'm like that does happen to me often, and I know things. I know the world. Like even my mother would agree with this. Like the entire world works off of frequencies, and to get to these
Right.
spiritual places, or in other words, different dimensions, you would have to tune into that frequency, and that's how we keep in contact with God, is because we're constantly tapping in to His level, to where He's at. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I found that very interesting as to, and I think, and it was after I went to Talking Doctrine. You remember him?
Uh huh.
Yeah, I went to his channel. I started listening
Right.
in, and he was talking about God and everything. They were talking about salvation and two other words that I usually don't use very often. Um, and the differences and similarities that they have to each other and how they work together.
Okay. Your audio
Um,
comes and goes.
it does. Okay.
Yeah, you're cutting out. You're getting robotic.
Oh, so my bandwidth is just sort of.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't know if I can turn mine down. Let me see if I can turn my bandwidth down. Well, where is that control? There it is.
Yeah. Okay, I turned it down.
Bandwidth.
But what tends to happen
Okay.
is my
This is
mother.
just video though.
Yeah, I know. But what tends to happen is my mother would go on like Netflix or something, or upload a video, and not upload, but start watching a video, and it'll get very, very choppy.
Okay. Yeah, I turned mine down too to audio only.
So I don't think
Sorry, you were saying.
so. I think God is starting to tell me, "Hey, you got to start really focusing." I mean, I'm aware of the evils in the world, but I'm far too aware and interested in what the evils of the world are doing than where where I need to be at with God. And I think,
Yeah.
my mother sort of said the same thing. She's like, this might be a little bit of a wake up call, telling you to get back. Gotta start focusing on uh, getting back into church and reading the Bible more. And anytime my mother and I start talking about church, we speak more of a build a community of Christians. Get a little bit of a network of
Right.
people that you can talk to about God with, rather than the old school traditional one where it's like, oh, go to church because that's where God is. um,
Right.
but yeah, I think that's sort of where I'm at. Um,
Yeah, that's why I think I've been, more focused on running that, little hangout once a week where two or three gather, just because, you know, nothing else is going to matter much longer. You have to make sure you're a community of Christians and get them all ready, because I think we're going to be taken out pretty soon, and we need to be prepared. And God always prepares people. It's like, even if you look in the Old Testament, when the people were wandering, the Jews were wandering in the wilderness, whenever God was going to come talk to them, they had to prepare themselves. And I think that's what he, seems to be doing from, various people also that I've heard, and you included, that it's a time to get ready to go, and it's a time for Christians to start, you know, getting cleaned up. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Um, I think that was sort of the overall message that he gave me, but sort of the other part was, him giving me the realization of like, here's what you were meant to do. we're we're fighting the
Right.
demons, we're fighting the evil of this world. We're not just sitting back and looking at what they're doing.
Right.
um,
And that's the thing
yeah,
about being salt and light, is you're supposed to go all of these other places where we see, obviously, and this is where we are for whatever reason in these hangouts, and be salt and light, and not just try to go along to get along, because it's time for us to stand up and be irritating, if you want to use that word. Salt can irritate them, and light makes the cockroaches scatter. So, but we have to be standing up and make it obvious who we are. I think that's the important thing. Not to be obnoxious, just obvious.
I can do both. That's all right. Yeah, yeah. I think it'll be okay if I do both of them. All
Yeah, that's
right.
another thing too. Do one thing at a time.
Yep. Yep.
So, which is that we can't neglect the most important thing.
Um. So I'm curious, what it's sort of it's not a habit of mine. But what sort of practices do you do? Like as a practicing Christian, what's what's just the basics?
As far as like a day in the life sort of thing.
Yeah, do you wake up, read the Bible, go to bed, and as you're going to bed, read the Bible or something, or is it
Um,
just something
well,
else?
yeah, mostly it's just, you can't just sit and read the instruction manual forever. I've read that and read that and read that and been all over it, and I still, I don't need a reading plan anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do try to write about, I've spent a lot of years writing about the stuff that I concluded, and now it seems that I'm in the video realm, even though I'm not really very good at that. Um, but as far as day to day stuff goes, I'm just doing that in the Hangouts, trying to be salt and light anymore, and trying to say, look, if somebody makes a statement that I know is untrue about the Bible, I'll say, okay, I did a video, I wrote an article that'll explain it. Here's a link, if I can post a link, and that's what I do every day. Just take it wherever you go.
All right.
I don't know if that really answers, but it's like, you're just, we have a lot of freedom as Christians, but
Yeah.
the most important, the important things are to be salt and light, and also to use spiritual gifts to build each other up. There's too little of that going on. That's another reason I wanted to do those church hangouts, because Christians need to be together as a group too and recharge each other. That's what build each other up is all about. And we aren't we aren't doing that. We don't do well at Salt and Light because we don't get together and get share teachings or understandings or words or whatever our spiritual gifts are.
Yeah.
We need to gather together and not just be independent. I mean, we are independent. We are individuals, no doubt about that. But we are also a body. We're supposed to be, and we need to act like one.
Yeah, the body's
So
kind
I
of
guess
getting.
mostly it's might just trying. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the body's getting a little bit sick. We got a bit of a
Yeah.
virus going
Well,
on.
I think it's been in bad shape for a long time, actually. Even before the internet. So.
Too much
Yeah.
dyeing of the hair and too much medication.
Yeah, too much fluoride, whatever you want to call
We're
it.
eating too much food too.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think the thing is spiritually where there's there's that one Christian hangout that what's it called? Celebrate Truth.
Yeah.
I was telling him the other day. I said there was moderators in there saying, "Oh, you can worship anybody. Everybody worships the same God." And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. No, as Christians, we're supposed to, that there's something that makes us Christians that doesn't make anybody else Christian, and we can't just, accept that meekly. We have to stand up,
Oh yeah.
or we're not doing any good. It's like she just said to that one church in Revelation, I wish you were hot or cold. Stand for something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But trying to get Christians together is like herding cats. I mean, people just don't, even after when they, a bunch of people said, why, weeks ago, a month ago, that, yeah, go ahead and start a Christian hangout. We need Christian hangouts. We need more of those. And then they don't show up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to do about that. What do they want?
They want someone to do it for them.
And they're exactly. That's why people sit in pews at church. They want to be spoon fed.
Yeah. I finally started my own little talk about whatever channel. Like I got that now.
Mm.
Easy
Right.
peasy.
And you can see how popular it is.
Yeah, it's not that popular, but I don't.
I mean, my channel's. Go ahead.
I'm not looking.
I mean, my channel's been around a while, and I know a bunch of people, but they don't show up.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah, I'm not looking to be super popular. I'm looking to find people who are just as interested.
Right.
I think that's where we're all looking for, but being on the internet, you get all these different people. Unfortunately, Big Daddy government ain't helping us there.
No, that's another thing too, is we get robbed at gunpoint basically to give money to people who don't even deserve it. They could work, but they won't. And it's the welfare state. And so the churches can't do what they were designed to do, which is to be charitable. And people can't give to churches because they're already being, taxed way too heavily by the government to take care of people who, are against everything we believe in. So it's really a difficult situation that I don't think has much of a precedent on this scale as we have right now. Since the church has existed.
Yeah, it's pretty darn bad.
Yep.
And it gets even worse because us just getting a building. Like here in Maine, we're the least evangelized state, and we have the lowest amount of churches and congregations in the entire USA. Like Alaska has more than that.
Wow.
And it's it's freaking difficult. I'm amazed that I know of 3 churches that have bells that still work. uh, and
Wow.
but to uh, but mo- but most of these churches, there's only one that has its own church and has used it ever since they've had it, and they're actually growing. And it is
Mm.
considered a mega church and it's the biggest one in the entire state, but only about they get about 800 people every Sunday.
Mm.
If you were to go to
That's not
Texas, they'd
bad.
be like, "Oh, that's a moderate church." That's a growing church, and I'm like, we're like, that's the biggest one. No, that's a mega church to us. Like, wow, it's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
but as for the rest of the churches around here that are actually struggling a bit, they share a church. They'd be like, okay, well, we'll take the morning, and you guys go ahead and take the night one,
Right.
or something like that. They they don't have their own building because they can barely afford it.
Right.
They have to work together with some other church who has a different faith or a different congregation of people, and which is really strange to me because I'm like, why not just have why not go like, all right, let's work together and form one bigger congregation of people, you know? Put aside your
Well,
weird
yeah, and
differences
that's the
and
thing
just go
too.
like, let's work here and take the building, and then we'll grow from that. That is actually probably a far better way to do
You know,
it
it's
than keep it separate.
and it's hard because people are losing their jobs and everything. The economy's terrible, and the churches depend on people having jobs. So, what can you do? It's we're being squeezed from both ends here.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a whole perfect storm of things going on.
It's a it, it's
Yeah.
all purposely made so we stay poor. Not only are we being taxed by just living, but as soon as you
Right.
start working and you want to make your own business, the property to rent a place it's ridiculously high. But then to hire someone in America, you have to give them benefits, you have to give them days off, and you have to give them like
Mm-hmm.
to hire someone in America is the most expensive thing in the entire world, and that's why they outsource. Um,
Right.
and I think,
Well,
I th-
I think it's also an opportunity. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I think because they're making it so hard for the citizens of the United States to get jobs that importing illegal immigrants as they are already doing is going, they'll see it as like, oh, this is actually going to be a positive boost to the economy, but then it's going to be really bad for everyone. It, I, it'll be a small boost for a very, very limited time, but then it's gonna keel over really quick.
Yeah, but I think we have, as far as Christians go, because the immigrants who are coming in are certainly not going to be Christians. Um, that we have an opportunity to do things the way they were supposed to be done in the first century, which is why I did that whole series called "You Are All One," and it's all about the fact that we don't really need these buildings and things. We don't need that stuff. We don't need to pay staff. You know, um, we shouldn't be paying staff. We should be just realizing that we're a community and we just help each other. We take care of each other the best we can. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Especially in this age of the internet, there's no reason we have to have a building to even meet together. I mean, people do like to meet face to face. I don't discount that at all. But for most things, you wouldn't have to have people travel to a place to do whatever, you know, I don't want to call it business because it shouldn't be a business, but they've been running it like that. They have pastors as basically CEOs,
Yeah,
and they're supposed. It's just another spiritual gift. There's people who are good at organizing. There's people who are good at motivating. There's people who are good at managing projects or whatever, and you need people like that. But they don't need to be paid positions, because if you're going to pay one, why not pay them all? There's nothing that says one particular spiritual gift is somebody's salary. That should be a salary position. Um, so that's why I did that series. It's like, we're economic times being what they are and spiritual times being what they are. We do have an opportunity for the church to remember what it was supposed to be doing all this time.
Yeah.
So I don't see it as completely bad.
Something.
I think it's more of a refining.
Perhaps it's because the Christians have been so demeaned and taken down on that where they're not even really confident in professing their faith to even going outside. Like recently we had some youth, Christian youth that went out on the went outside with some chalk onto the sidewalk into the city, and they started writing down Bible verses and such. Well, there was one girl that started writing down a Bible verse, and the local store owner that was right there didn't like it, and he started spraying it down with a hose while she was still writing it down. And she's like, "What the heck are you doing?" And he's like, "That's bigotry, and we hate that." And it's like, what the heck? We can't even do something as simple as that. Even as a kid, even a child going out as a Christian is treated worse than someone who just got out of jail with like, I don't know, a sex offender, something like that. A criminal is treated better than the kid was.
Right, and
you don't walk down the street. You don't ask the guy if he just got out of jail, and then you spray him down with a hose. But you do with a kid who's writing down Bible verses.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy,
but
critical.
But I think there's definitely there's public spaces that we can go to. There's the what's it called? Parks. There's plenty of parks around here. That we can go to and congregate and start and use for our freedom of speech and freedom to demonstrate. It's cheap. Hey, if they can do it for the Muslims, there was literally a prayer for Muslims who took up an entire street in what's it called? I want to say Brunswick, but it's like they were in New York, and they took up an entire street for a prayer. They all went out, laid down their mats, took down. If they can do that, I can have a park. I won't be blocking traffic,
right?
But I can have a park. I think.
Right. Well, it's just like when political conservatives would have to get all kinds of permits and things when they would let the Democrats do something without any kind of permit at all.
Yeah,
that's how they are. It's always a double standard.
It's really funny because, like all the protests that the Republicans are having, they have policemen there and they strip search everybody, making sure they don't have any weapons or anything like that. But then Democrats come along and they have smoke bombs, they have friggin' whip chains and all this other stuff, and somehow the Republicans still win the battle. Like it's hilarious to see because there's tons of people already videotaping this. I think half of them just have their phones out and looking at people, while the other half are actually standing there ready to have a second civil war.
Right.
But yeah, this really proves, how ideology affects the body. If you have a strong faith and you have good morals, you're going to be brought up and you're going to be tall and strong. All right. Your bones are not going to break just at a
Right.
simple breeze. While the
Right.
Democrats, they don't even know what they believe in anymore. They're all over the place as their mind is, well, they're just as well as their body will be.
Right.
um, but yeah, it's just funny. Uh, but I really think, if we just do something as simple as that, if we get some people together, make up a simple little banner or something, say church congregation or something. I don't know. Uh, but we have to have people have to believe, they have to really believe in themselves and have the confidence to do this rather than thinking, oh, we don't want to offend people. We don't want to have people come up to us and start telling us we're bigots or we're hateful. It's like, no, you're going to. And don't just have the adults come
Right.
along and moderate what's going on. Have the kids experience this because this is the life. This is what we're living, and it's going to only get worse. If we have people doing this and we tell them, hey, we got these kind of
Yeah.
people around who just don't like it, but they're also uneducated on who we really are. There's a lot of different churches that aren't prophesying the truth, but we're out here and
Right.
we're trying to set that record straight.
Well, that's the thing is we've allowed ourselves to be silenced, and then just because it's religion, and then we didn't say anything when other religions walked in and where we weren't allowed to go. We just didn't seem to notice that we were being discriminated against, and we didn't say anything. And so people think it's okay to discriminate and be bigoted against Christians, but only Christians. Just like they think only whites can be racist. That's the same kind of double standards that nobody, the churches of all people should be complaining about. But they don't do anything. Having organized religion isn't helping with anything pretty much that I can see.
Yep,
So
yep.
I don't know. Yeah, it's depressing, but at the same time, we got to expect that. I mean, that's the time we live in.
It just
But I
baffles
do
me.
think it's about over.
It baffles me so bad. You believe in this almighty, awesome God, who was the original creator, and then you believe that there's all sorts of demons and stuff that we fight, that we're going up against. We're being prepared to go up against the ending days as they come, and we exercise all sorts of demons out of people so they can be free and have that free will that God intended us to have. But then you're like, oh, we don't want to offend these poor people and express our faith too much. What? It upsets me because
Yeah.
you can see it in these pastors' eyes that they've really just they've they put their own faith down to a simple do this, tell this, and don't go
Yeah.
beyond this point.
Right. It's not a personal conviction. It's just a belief. And that's why it's so easily given up. You know, People encounter a new idea and they're like, I don't want Christianity anymore. It doesn't do anything for me. Well, it was never, nobody ever told you it was a relationship instead of just a belief. If it's a conviction, that's what other people have that that they will stand up for and die for. But the Christian church has been lulled to sleep. So, it doesn't surprise me that people act that way, but it's a shame.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's what's lacking and why they go to other spiritualities. They want to go where there's some kind of signs of life. You know, who can blame them?
Some zeal.
Yeah,
The sad thing is that because there's no zeal in the Christian faith, uh, we got Muslims. They definitely got they got tons of zeal. It's not just zeal though. They got plenty of
Right.
hate. They got a reason. I mean, we have a reason too, but theirs is a bit more, current. I
Yeah,
suppose
they're
you would
very
put it.
passionate about. Yeah,
Oh man, it's gonna be.
yeah, they're not ashamed of it.
I mean, why
Yeah,
would they?
that's what made such a big deal the other day, and whether the moderators are Christians. Yeah,
Why would they when what they're doing is working?
you're cutting out again. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if part of that is OBS. You're using OBS, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's some issues with that you have to have a pretty good computer to run that very smoothly. But also, I think YouTube is messing with it. They're always, like this morning when I came back from church early afternoon, I